Hello, my name's Trudi Rainsberry and this is the third in a series of videos aimed at offering practical advice, ideas and strategies for supporting children and young people on the autism spectrum, whether you're a parent, a carer or educational practitioner. This week is focusing on developing and supporting our children's understanding of the social context and meaning behind different situations, events or conventions. Difficulties in this area are often said to be rooted in differences in theory of mind or central coherence. However, I'm not going to focus on the theoretical perspective. Individuals on the autism spectrum often do have a different view on this world. However, it doesn't mean that it's any less valid than a non-autistic view of the world. Children on the autism spectrum can find it extremely challenging to understand the nuances and the hidden rules behind different social situations. So this video is aimed at offering our support in having that role of making the implicit explicit. We've thought about watching for why, writing it down and talking it through in order for us to have a proactive approach to developing our understanding of the way in which our child communicates and understands the world so that we can adapt our communication style and better connect with our children through being interested, being engaged and being creative. It's really important for us to explain the context of different situations and meanings so that our children are empowered and included in the world around them. Dr. Rebecca Wood said that autistic children should be fully supported in the typical social opportunities of school if that's what they want. And in order to do this, we need to think about explaining the social rules and hidden meanings in social situations that non-autistic people might take for granted, even though they're not written down or taught explicitly. Imagine if you are in a big room full of people in a country where you don't understand the culture or the language, how we would understand the social rules and context in that situation. What cues and clues would we look out for? We might look out for what time of day it is, what people are wearing, what they are doing, whether they're standing up or sitting down, whether they're talking loudly or quietly, whether they're eating. And in that way, we might think about how we would explain the context of a situation to somebody who is on the autism spectrum. So when we're explaining the context and meaning of a situation, we might want to think about explanation and repetition, thinking about ensuring that this is meaningful for the individual you are supporting, remembering about communication styles. Is it on a very physical or sensory and kinesthetic level? Are you doing it through signing and objects or objects of reference, maybe symbols or photographs, or even adapting the text such as through open dyslexic font, remembering that what we're going to write is going to be very clear, concise and literal in explaining exactly what's going to happen, and ensuring as much as we possibly can that there isn't a room for the child that we're supporting to misunderstand what is being said. Explanation. When we're supporting our children, whether it's through written text or through a physical kinesthetic means, it's beneficial for us to try and gain the perspective and viewpoint of the child that we're supporting. This may be through observation, or it might be creatively through a collaborative approach, such as creating a storyboard or a comic strip conversation to understand the who, what, where, when, why and how of a particular context. We're not correcting behaviour, we're sharing information with our children in order that they understand the context. And this might be in a very physical, kinesthetic way, through role play and rehearsal of the particular context that you're focusing on, and doing this repeatedly. It may be using a scarf and having that scarf associated with a member of staff that the child is building a relationship with. And this means today I'm going to school and I'm going to be working with Jane, and it's got a very sensory aspect, a particular look, smell and touch to it. It could be using signing, where this would be explained in a visual Makaton way, or also through symbols. This child was getting very dysregulated on the way to school, and so this is saying just one aspect of the situation where they might want to develop that understanding and know what they could do in that situation. I'm in the taxi with my seatbelt on, I'm using kind hands, and I can touch, squeeze or stroke my toy dog, and that would make me happy. Obviously that is in quite a simple way. It depends on the level of communication of your child. We can do this in text. When we're supporting our children through text to understand a particular concept or situation, it's important for us to remember that no one child's perspective or communication style is the same. And it's important to remember this because there are lots of amazing resources and social stories out there, but they need to be tailored and adapted to the individual child for them to be really beneficial and engage that child. If you're collaborating with a child or writing for a story or script for a child, it's best to start with a description. You're describing in as few sentences as you can the who, what, where and when of a particular situation or context you're explaining. Then you need to explain how others might be thinking and feeling and how they might be thinking and feeling in that particular context, probably just in one sentence or two sentences. Then if you want to support your children to know how to do a particular thing, direct them or guide them to do something, explaining this using as least an imperative sentence as possible, saying I will try rather than I must do something, because in saying I will try, it means that they can endeavour to do it, even if it's something that they might find quite challenging to do. And then finally, you conclude your script or story with saying why it was a good idea to do that from their point of view and from others' perspectives as well. So the examples that I'm going to share with you now, I hope will show you that it's important to be positive, but also to be creative and unafraid when trying to write your own social scripts or stories with children on the autism spectrum to support them in understanding a context. You shouldn't be afraid if you are writing it clearly, concisely and positively for your child. Please don't be afraid to have a go and see whether or not they enjoy it or understand the meaning and it's meaningful to them, because there's a lot of myth around writing social stories, and adults supporting children can become really anxious about it. And one of the things I get most contacted about is, I've got a child that I'm supporting, I don't know how to write the social story for them. So this is a story that I wrote, and I'm going to share it with you because I wrote it before I'd studied anything to do with autism. I had read some books about autism. One of my children was experiencing extreme OCD, and one of the manifestations of this was that they didn't want to cry in front of other people. And so this says, when I get sad, I might want to cry. When people cry, it's their body helping them to understand that they are sad. My friends will think I am sad if I cry. They will not think I am silly. If I feel sad and I want to cry, I should try not to be embarrassed. Someone will help me feel better. When I stop crying, it is good to be happy again with my friends, like SpongeBob and Patrick, because they related very much to SpongeBob, who I do think is on the autism spectrum personally. Anyway, but there are things like using images of Favourite sports, this is about playtime, so I've put football at the top so that they're able to engage with it, and it's also in green text to support the child with visually. This is another thing to support a child who is dyslexic, and I've written it in open dyslexic, and it's talking about kindness. And this child likes to think about respect and thinking about people respecting each other. And it says, at school we try to be kind towards each other. Being kind is when people respect each other's feelings by saying and doing kind things. Being unkind is when people say or do things that make other people feel upset or worried. If I'm confused about what is kind and unkind, then I can do a drawing with Mrs. Jones. I will try to be kind to other people. This is a good idea, and I can be pleased with myself. My teachers and parents will also be pleased with me. And so I've used facial expressions from their particular favourite film at the time, which was obviously Madagascar. I've also done ones with Minecraft and using the perspective there. With older children, particularly Key Stage 2 children, I did a whole series of Star Wars social stories. The young person I was supporting absolutely loved his social stories and would keep them in a folder and share them with all of their friends because they really got enthused about it, and it really helped to develop their understanding of multiple concepts. Obviously, that child was particularly able to understand those different contexts and very articulate. Another young man who was working towards daily targets and loved Lord of the Rings. We talked about his daily quest, his daily targets, his quest of what he needed to do to achieve his goal, his quest targets. Obviously, these can also be written using imprint or widget. And I've written this about a young person I was supporting at a resource centre. And when you're using imprint, you can put your own photographs in, and obviously you can have the photograph of Tom on there, which I'm not doing obviously for privacy reasons. So that's just an example of one that's in print and very clear and quite simple. This is one that I've adapted on several occasions for young children in sort of early years reception age class about kind hands and feet, where they were finding it really challenging in the context of that situation to be able to engage with their peers in a particular way and would get quite dysregulated, or just explore the experience of using their hands and feet in a way that wasn't necessarily appropriate. So they were given alternatives of being able to use their hands to construct Lego or to kick a ball, and I've used photographs that they could relate to because they liked Lego. So that's just a flavour of the sort of social scripts and stories I've used. I do like to use pictures and photographs that are going to make what the children want to engage with them. Repetition is a key aspect to embedding the understanding of a particular context for our children, and through this we need to have a shared adult approach, and that might be in the home environment or in the educational setting, or a shared understanding between both settings, which is the preferable way. And in doing this, the adults need to ensure that the children are feeling well regulated and happy, and the adult is feeling positive and well regulated when sharing and supporting the children. And the repetition is appropriate to the context that's being supported. And so it might be through role play, or it might be something that's shared between home and school, such as an explanation about what to do in the taxi journey on the way to and from school. It may be the kind hands and feet that is shared in the home and the school environment on a regular basis when the child is feeling happy and well regulated, or before and morning and lunchtime playtime, when the child is feeling happy and maybe they're engaging in using some sensory objects so they feel well regulated. These are not a catch-all for teaching all situations and concepts, and we do need to be flexible. Peter Vermeulen said that it's important for us to teach individuals on the autism spectrum to know what to do when the unpredictable happens. Next week, I will be talking about drawing and using comic strips and storyboards to support our children to unpick situations that they find particularly confusing and to support their understanding of different people's perspectives and viewpoints. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.